Where are the dinosaurs in the Bible? It's a simple question, but one that challenges everything you learned in school. Because the traditional narrative goes like this. Dinosaurs became extinct 65 million years ago, long before any human beings walked the earth. End of story, right? But what if that's not quite true? What if I told you that there is a creature described in the oldest book of the Bible? Job, chapter 40. A creature so absurdly large, so brutally powerful, that it can only be one thing: a dinosaur. And we're not talking about a metaphor. We're talking about an anatomical description, detailed, precise. Its name? Behemoth. And here's the problem. Most modern Bibles translate behemoth as hippopotamus or elephant. Large animals, yes, but nothing that justifies the terror in God's voice when he describes this creature to Job. Nothing that explains the expression, tail like a cedar. Have you ever seen a hippopotamus tail? It looks like a shriveled sausage. It's about 40 centimeters long. It's ridiculous. A cedar of Lebanon. It can reach 40 meters in height, with a trunk 2 meters in diameter. So explain to me, how does the Bible compare a hippopotamus's tail to a colossal tree? It doesn't make sense, unless we're talking about something else. Something much bigger, much older, and much scarier. Let's go straight to the text. Job 40, verses 15 to 24. God is speaking, and he says, "Behold now Behemoth, which I made with you. He eats grass like an ox. Behold, his strength is in his loins, and his power is in the muscles of his belly. He stiffens his tail like a cedar. The sinews of his thighs are intertwined. His bones are like tubes of bronze. His limbs are like bars of iron." Stop. Breathe. Let's dissect this. First, he eats grass like an ox. That eliminates any carnivore. We're talking about a giant herbivore. Now think, what is the largest land herbivore that ever existed? It's not the elephant. It's not the rhinoceros. It's the sauropods. Diplodocus, Brachiosaurus, Argentinosaurus. Creatures that weighed between 50 and 100 tons. And yes, they ate grass. Tons of vegetation per day. Second, his strength is in his loins, and his power is in the muscles of his belly. That's the anatomy of a large quadruped. Sauropods had columnar legs, thick as tree trunks, because they needed to support dozens of tons of weight. The muscles of the belly, essential for maintaining the balance of that absurd neck and that monumental tail. Now, the part that destroys any attempt to fit a hippopotamus or elephant into this description. It hardens its tail like cedar. Let's be brutally honest. A hippopotamus's tail is pathetic. An elephant's? A little 5-meter whip. Nothing, absolutely nothing that you can compare to cedar. But a diplodocus's tail? It was 13 meters long. It was used as a whip to ward off predators. It could break bones. And it had a reinforced bone structure. Rigid, powerful, cedar of Lebanon. And there's more. The nerves of his thighs are intertwined. This is not poetic language. It is biological description. Sauropods had a complex network of tendons and muscles in their hind legs, because they needed an absurdly strong structure to support that colossal weight. I mean, we're talking about an animal that stepped on the ground and left craters. And finally, their bones are like tubes of bronze, their limbs like bars of iron. This is pure gold, because sauropod bones were pneumatic, hollow inside like tubes, but extremely dense and resistant on the outside. This reduced weight without compromising strength. Perfect biological engineering, and the biblical description captures that. Bronze, iron, military structure. Now tell me, how does a text from that 500 years ago accurately describe the anatomy of a dinosaur? If no one at the time knew what a dinosaur was, but the description doesn't stop there, because God continues. And what he says next is spine-tingling. Job 40:23. Behold, if rivers overflow, they do not rush. They trust, even if the Jordan rises to their mouth. Can you imagine that? An animal so large, so absurdly heavy, that when a river overflows and floods everything around it, it does not run, it does not move, it just stands there, standing still, drinking, as if it were any other Monday. The Jordan River is, in some places, more than 30 meters wide, and the Bible says that Behemoth could stand with its mouth in the water. While the river rose, that means we're talking about a neck long enough to reach the water without the body having to go down, and legs tall enough that the flood wouldn't be a problem. Do you know what has legs like that? Do you know what has a neck like that? Brachiosaurus, 13 meters tall, 26 meters long, 50 tons of muscle, bone and skin. When it walked, the ground shook, literally. Paleontological studies show that the footprint of a large sauropod created seismic waves that could be felt hundreds of meters away. And there's more. He is the chief of God's works. Job 40:19, chief of God's works. That's no small compliment. We are talking about the most impressive land animal God ever created, and it makes sense. Because to this day, no land animal has surpassed the size of sauropods. African elephants weigh 6 tons. Impressive? Yes. But compared to a 100-ton Argentinosaurus, it's an ant, and the Bible knew that 500 years ago. Now, this is where things get controversial. Because if the behemoth was a dinosaur, and if Job was describing something he knew, that means humans and dinosaurs coexisted. And that breaks the standard evolutionary model. It breaks the 65 million year timeline. It breaks everything. But what if there is evidence of this? Let's go to Peru. 1961. A Peruvian doctor named Javier Cabrera begins collecting carved stones in the Ica region. And what does he find on these stones? Humans fighting dinosaurs. Humans riding creatures that look like sauropods. Humans hunting triceratops. There are more than 15 Diusunvrum stones. And the dating. Some are over 1,000 years old. Others are much older. The scientific community says forgery. But no one can explain how the sculptors knew the correct anatomy of dinosaurs that were only discovered in the 19th century. Let's go to Cambodia, to Prom Temple, built in the 12th century, and there, carved into the stone wall, is a Stegosaurus, complete with dorsal plates, perfectly identifiable. How? How did a 12th century civilization carve a dinosaur extinct for 65 million years? With anatomical precision, and there's more. The legends of dragons, China, Europe, South America, always describing giant creatures with long neck, powerful tails, that breathed fire or had impenetrable scales. Coincidence? Or collective memory? And here's something brutal. Soft tissue fossils. 2005. Mary Schweitzer discovers blood vessels, red cells, and flexible proteins inside a T-Rex fossil. The official age of the fossil? 68 million years. Problem: soft tissue doesn't last more than a few thousand years, at most. So, either the dating is wrong, or something very strange is going on. So, what is the behemoth? The most honest answer. We don't know with 100% certainty, but the biblical description fits perfectly with a sauropod, and the archaeological evidence, the ancient legends, the artifacts, all point to the same conclusion. Humans and dinosaurs coexisted, and that changes everything. Because if God created Behemoth, if he brought this colossal creature into existence, and if he had complete control over it, then imagine what else he can control. In the next chapter, Job 41, God describes another creature, the Leviathan, a sea monster, invincible, no one can subdue it. And God asks Job, can you fish the Leviathan with a hook? The answer? No, no one can, except God. And that's when Job understands. He was questioning God. He was demanding answers. He wanted to know why he was suffering. And God responds by showing him the behemoth, by showing him the Leviathan, and saying, can you control these creatures? No. So how do you think you can question the one who created them? It's brutal, it's humiliating, but it's true. Because if God controls Behemoth, if he controls Leviathan, if he controls the most powerful and incomprehensible forces of nature, then he also controls your life, your suffering, your pain, and you may not understand. You may not have answers, but you can trust, because the God who created the behemoth, the God who made its tail like a cedar, its bones like bronze, its strength like iron, that God also created you, and he is in control, total, absolute, sovereign, and maybe, just maybe, the behemoth isn't just an extinct creature. Maybe it's a reminder that there are things greater than us, older, more powerful, and all of them bow their knees before the Creator.